In the deepest, most untouched forests near wells, where sunlight never kissed the moss-covered ground, lived a werewolf named Malachor. His transformations were not merely painful, but filled with an untamed, bloodthirsty rage. The memory of his human life had long since faded in the cruel nights of transformation, replaced by an insatiable hunger for flesh and bone. The inhabitants of the surrounding villages lived under a reign of terror. Night after night, people vanished without a trace, their screams carried away by the wind. The Baron, desperate and driven by vengeance, hired the most feared hunter in the realm, Victor, whose name was whispered in dark conversations like a death sentence. Victor's eyes were as cold as Arctic ice, and his methods were as merciless as they were effective. He knew no fear, only the triumph of the hunt. Malachor sensed Victor's presence like a piercing pain in his animalistic instinct. He smelled the foreign, dangerous aura encroaching on his territory. A deep, archaic fury rose within him, mingled with the desire to tear this intruder to shreds. On the next full moon night, as the silver orb bathed the forest in an eerie light, Malachor's transformation occurred with particular ferocity. His claws grew into razor-sharp blades. His teeth lengthened into fangs that reflected the moonlight. A deep, guttural growl escaped his throat, a promise of death. He followed Victor's trail, leaving a bloody swathe of destruction in his wake. Torn animals littered his path, a foretaste of what awaited his human hunter. He found Victor in a clearing, surrounded by the bloodied remains of his traps. Victor stood motionless, his face a mask of determination, a crossbow held firmly in his hands. Malachor lunged at him with an infernal roar. Victor dodged with remarkable speed and fired a bolt that grazed Malachor's shoulder. The projectile was laced with wolfsbane poison, but the werewolf's raging fury overshadowed the pain. The fight unleashed itself with brutal intensity. Malachor's claws ripped through Victor's clothing, leaving deep gashes in his flesh. Victor evaded, countering with swift thrusts of his crossbow, the bolts sinking into Malachor's muscular body. Blood splattered onto the mossy earth, mingling with the silvery light of the moon. In a fit of furious rage, Malachor seized Victor in his massive jaws and hurled him against a gnarled tree. Victor's head struck the trunk with a sickening crack, and his body slumped lifelessly to the ground. But Malachor's bloodlust was not yet quenched. He tore open Victor's lifeless body, ripping him apart with his claws and devouring his flesh greedily, the crunch of bones echoing through the silent forest. It was a gruesome triumph, an act of pure animalistic violence. As dawn broke and the first rays of sunlight pierced the dense canopy, Malachor's monstrous form receded. He stood as a man, stained with the blood of his hunter, his eyes empty and devoid of any remorse. Only a low, animalistic growl rumbled in his chest, a constant thirst for more. The forests around Wells were now even darker, and the memory of Victor would live on in the hearts of the survivors as a grim warning. The hunt had reached a bloody end, but the terror of the werewolf was far from over.